For our next case, we're going to move over to Florida, where a man is accused of shooting his girlfriend and then staging her death to look like a suicide. So here's what happened. Last week, police arrive at a Northport home and they find Chelsea Nandor in bed. She's on her back with a gunshot wound to her left side of her head and a gun in her left hand. Chelsea still had a pulse, and authorities rushed her to Sarasota Memorial Hospital, where she ended up dying of her injuries. Chelsea is a mother of 3, and she had been dating 38-year-old Clinton Pittman at the time of her death. It is Clinton, her boyfriend, who calls 911. And I always find 911 calls to be very revealing about a lot of things. Again, we all react differently in a panic situation, but sometimes the things are said or the way they're said make people scratch their head, right? It's like, really? Okay, so Clinton tells the 911 dispatcher that he had been outside in the backyard and, quote, heard the damn thing. Presumably, this would be the shot.
The gun, yeah.
I heard the damn thing. And then he ran inside to find his girlfriend with the gun in her hand. So he tells 911 she's bleeding all over the place. This is a 9-minute call. And he's saying, you know, she has blood all over and the gun is pointing to her head. Okay, I guess that's a good detail. But nonetheless, I think I'd be focused on, is she breathing?
Is problematic. Yeah.
What is your radar?
Yeah. You know, okay. So if the gun is still pointing at her head, one, this is what's going to happen. So the hand is going to jerk back and the gun probably still wouldn't be pointed at her head. 2, I heard the damn thing. You know, that doesn't sound like someone that really cares that the person that they supposedly love, you know, just got shot. If you're talking, you know, like that. This one really bothers me. You know, as a defense attorney, you're always looking for a way to defend someone. This one is a little bit more difficult than the other because the first thing the police are going to do or should have done was take his clothing. Because when you shoot a gun, the gunpowder residue will go on the clothing of the person that shot the gun more times than not. So they would have gotten, if he has gunpowder residue on his clothing, then more likely than not, he's the one that fired the gun if he wasn't in close proximity to her when the gun went off, if he says that he was outside when everything happened. And she's right-handed, right? And the gun was in her left hand.
Yes.
And look, I don't know this woman's strength. I'd like to think that I'm pretty strong, but I can't do nothing with this left hand. So, you know, everything I do, I write with my hand. I try to act like I can do things with my left hand, but I can't. It's the most difficult thing to do. It's weirdly enough, if you have a dominant hand, trying to do things for the less dominant hand, basic, simple things, is just really difficult to do. But you're going to pull the trigger from a gun with the other hand?
Very unlikely. Very unlikely. I also, you know, this happens a lot in these cases, especially when it's this tricky thing. Is it murder? Is it suicide? Is everything that happens in those first few minutes and those first few hours when police arrive on a scene, what is done and isn't done has such bearings on the case and the evidence, because that's a great question. And we don't know the answer to whether his hands were bagged, but they should have been, right? Because someone is dead and it appears to be from a gunshot wound. And like you said, chances are his description versus what it looks like on the bed, or what it looks like on the bed versus what it would in real life, maybe aren't adding up, which would lead you to say, you know, it's just standard. We're going to just test your hands, just going to make sure, can we collect your clothing? That's, you know, because you have to treat every... Right.
Yeah, no, but this is nothing's easy, but easier one, I would say, than the previous case that we addressed, because there's some really smart people out there. So they can tell by the way the exit wound, the exit wound is, the position that the gun was in. So even if she was left-handed, you know, was it like this, like this? Was it like this? How did the bullet leave the, you know, the head if the bullet did, you know, exit the wound? Where is the most gunpowder residue on her head? How is she laying down on the bed? Did she just lay down and shoot herself as she was laying down, or was she sitting up in the bed, which caused her now to lay down after she got shot? And if that's the case, then the gun wouldn't be pointed to her head. You don't fall back like this. If anything, your hand goes numb and you fall back like that. I find it really difficult to believe that the person would shoot themselves with their less dominant hand and have the gun still pointing at their temple, if that's, what they're saying.
Exactly. I think it is very suspicious. Now, he allegedly struggled. Police say he struggled with answering some very basic questions, not just to them, but also to the dispatcher on the phone, because he's repeatedly telling the 911 dispatcher, hurry, hurry, hurry. That's his thing. Hurry, hurry, hurry. So then when the dispatcher says to him, okay, help me help her, we're going to do some life-saving techniques. We'll do what we can while paramedics are on the way. He declines to provide any assistance. He just tells the dispatcher no. I mean, I'm saying that very politely. He, declines. He's just like flat out no. He says, quote, ma'am, I can't touch her. Now, if this is your significant other and there's any chance of survival, why would you not touch her?
I can see that, though. You could be so distraught that the person that you love is laying there bleeding profusely from their head. And you're like, you're in a state of shock yourself that you can't pull yourself to make physical contact with someone who may be deceased or who is dying, who you love. But then the counter argument to that is, let's say it was mouth to mouth. I can see someone having an issue putting their lips on a stranger's lips. But if this is the person that you've been with, I'm pretty sure you've kissed for a very long time, and many times. So I don't see what the issue would be here, unless you were just so distraught to see them like this, you couldn't pull yourself to do that. But I think Darwin's theory of survival of fittest kicks in with, you have to do whatever it takes to make sure you save that person's life if you care about them the way you say you do.
The other thing is, I find it odd that he held the phone up so the dispatcher could hear her labored breathing. What was the point of this?
Why? Yeah. Like, you want to talk to her? It's like, you want to talk to her? She's like, yeah.
It makes no sense. I'm just like, how is this helpful?
Yeah. Was it a video call? Were they on FaceTime? Look, you could see her right there, not breathing.
That to me is very, very bizarre. Then he tells the dispatcher, he says, quote, Jesus Christ, this is freaking me out. Okay, that's probably accurate.
It's freaking her out more. She's laying there dying. Help her out.
Absolutely. So NBC2 reports that during their investigation, authorities interviewed Clinton, and at that point, and her family and her friends, and that's when the authorities learn that she was indeed right-handed and not left-handed. So this is separate of how odd things may have looked at the scene. Now they have concrete proof.
Odd. I'm trying to use a word that's not offensive to describe his actions, because you would have known that she was right-handed. Like, you didn't really think this went out through too much. If this is really what you did, and you're not passing a fake $100 bill, you're committing the worst crime you could, I think conceivably, commit. At least it's up there, like the top three. You should have really thought this thing out a little bit more. A big thing would have been, is she right-handed or left-handed? Which gun am I going to put her hand in, the gun in? It's insane.
Yes, definitely not very bright and not well planned out if indeed this is a murder and not a suicide, as it is looking. Authorities also recovered some surveillance footage that shows Clinton leaving the home through the back door the night of Chelsea's death. Wait a minute, allegedly throwing a handgun into the woods, and the gun was later... That's
it right there. I think that's the most damning thing right there, because that's indicative of guilt to do something like that. Even if the gun was illegal, even if you had an illegal gun in your house that you used to shoot someone with, I don't know, 5 years ago. I'm just going down the rabbit hole to think, why would a reasonable person do something as not so smart as this? You have to believe that you look really super guilty if you're taking the weapon that was used to, kill your significant other and hiding it somewhere that they're probably going to find anyway. Now your prints are definitely on it, and your DNA is definitely on it. That's a bigger problem.
And he was a convicted felon, so he was not supposed to have any guns. It doesn't done.
Okay. See, there might be a defense in that. That may explain why he did what he did. Because if he's a felon in possession of a weapon, he's committing a crime. It's like, whoa, my girlfriend killed herself. They're gonna find the gun. I'm not supposed to have this gun. What am I going to do? And it could have been self-preservation, everything that he was doing. There's an argument to be made that if he did not pull the trigger, once the trigger was pulled, he went into Darwin mode to protect himself, and it was self-preservation so that, look, I'm going to get in trouble. They're going to think I did this, and I'm not supposed to have a gun. Oh, my God, what am I going to do? I don't know. It's possible.
It is, right? Anything is possible here.
Reasonable doubt. That's all you need. Reasonable doubt.
I don't think there's much here. In the other case, yes. In this one, I'm not so sure. So at this point, investigators believe that Chelsea's death was not self-inflicted, that this was not a suicide. They absolutely believe, this is their theory, that Clinton shot her in the head before placing the gun in the wrong hand, in her non-dominant hand. Chelsea's family also has a little bit of insight. They say that Chelsea was getting ready to leave him. They were going to break up. Now, this could possibly be what was going on. It's always important to know what was going on in the lives of the people involved before the crime occurred. Also, let's look back at Clinton's criminal issues. So he has convictions dating back to 2007 for crimes including drugs, making terroristic threats, aggravated assault, domestic violence. Now, this to me is the most interesting. According to the local NBC station, Clinton posted on his Facebook page a picture of a certificate which he earned for completing 20 sessions of a domestic violence intervention program in November of 2020. I say that Clinton did not do very well in class.
Well,
I mean,
one, why would you post that for other people to see that you had to go for domestic violence training? That's just not the smart thing to do anyway. But guys like that are so dominant and abusive and that have to go through those type of trainings, they usually, when they kill their significant others, they don't run from it or hide from it. They're just that arrogant and indignant, and it's a power thing with them. This is a strange situation, a strange case.
It really is. And it's a very fresh case. So there's a lot of detail that we don't have yet, that we'll be waiting on all of the forensics that have not been released yet. So right now, Clinton faces charges of second-degree murder, which is interesting, tampering with evidence, and 2 counts of possession of a firearm as a felon. Why do you think they went for second degree?
Intent is a hard thing to prove. You could. It's easier to prove someone's actions. It's harder to prove why they did, what they did. So for the levels of culpability, they have to, prove what the intention for his actions were. And like you said, it's a really early case, but those charges either could go up or down as time progresses. In many, many, many cases that I've done, the charges start out like this. And I have to, manage the expectations of my clients. Like it just looks like this now. They're going to supersede this indictment in a couple of months. Trust me. No, I've been doing this long enough. Trust me. And then they're doing their investigation. It's like you said, the case is fresh. So they're spending their time doing their investigation to see what laws are applicable that they can charge him with. I wouldn't be surprised if in a few months those charges range from the most serious to, other charges that we don't know may not even exist yet.
Absolutely. And while we don't believe he's had his first appearance or has entered a plea yet, he is, of course, presumed innocent, as with all our cases, always presumed innocent. We're going to follow this one as well because I find this one really fascinating.
Maybe she was ambidextrous. Maybe he thought she was ambidextrous. Who knows?